Mr. Jones does appear in custody. He's represented by Ms. Smith and Mr. Colvin. Mr. Rubenstein and Mr. Wade are both here for the people. We are outside the presence of our jury. Anything before I invite the jury back in? Mr. Rubenstein?
No, sir.
Mr. Colvin?
No, sir.
All right, thanks. I'll go ahead and call for him then. Thank you. You can be seated. For the record, our jury has now joined us back in the court, and welcome back, everybody. We're ready for the people's next witness, Mr. Waite.
Thank you, Your Honor. People would call Chad.
Thank you. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, sir. Do you have a seat in the green chair, please? Thank you. You can proceed whenever you're ready, Mr. Wade. Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Would you state your name and spell your last name, please, for the record?
Chad Searcy, S-E-A-R-C-Y.
How are you employed?
I'm a deputy sheriff at the Mesa County Sheriff's Office.
And what are your duties for the Sheriff's Department?
Currently, I'm a school resource officer.
Okay. Have you had other duties for the Sheriff's Department as well?
I have.
How long have you been with the Sheriff's Department?
I believe a total of about 15 years, 13 to 15 years.
Based on that, I take it you were employed there in July of 2007?
Yes, I was.
And on July 14th of 2007, did you assist with some search efforts regarding Paige Bergfeld and some things that have been found?
Yes, sir.
And did you go to a certain area of Highway 50, and were you looking for certain items at that point?
Yes, I was.
Okay, where did you go? First of all, where did you go on Highway 50?
There were several spur roads off of Highway 50 that were searched, looking for any suspicious or obvious objects that we might be looking for. Did search some spur roads off of Bridgeport Road that is near the Mesa Delta County line. Some items were found there, and then there were other items found in the median of Highway 50.
Were there other searchers out at the same time you were out there looking around?
Yes, there was. There were other deputies and a lot of other volunteer searchers as well.
During the course of your search, did you come upon a check register?
Yes, I did.
And, Your Honor, if I could approach the witness.
Yes, sir.
I've previously shown this to the defense.
Thank you.
Showing you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 408. Can you tell me what that is, please?
I see a checkbook register with a checkbook register cover.
And did you find those items?
Yeah, yes, I did.
Where did you find them?
They were in the median on Highway 50, I believe along milepost 36 or 37, something close to that area.
Okay. So a milepost, what did you say, 36 or 37, somewhere in there?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. In the median area?
Yes, Highway 50 is a divided highway, 4-lane divided highway, so there's an open median. It's just grass and dirt and shrubs. And while searching in that area in the median, that's where I found this item.
Okay. So you collected that particular item?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, I'd ask to admit People's 408 at this time.
Do you have an objection, Mr. Colvin?
No, sir.
People's Exhibit 408 is admitted. Thanks.
And I don't have anything else for the deputy. Thank you.
Thank you. Cross-examination, Mr. Colvin.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Morning, sir.
Morning.
The checkbook register is red in color, is that right?
The cover, I'm sorry?
No, the register.
The
itself.
register, it does have some red tint.
And that was not the color it was when you collected it, right?
Because it was so long ago, I honestly don't recall.
Okay, so you're not familiar with the tint that processing for prints leaves on paper?
Yes, I am, and that very well could be, but
You collected it, that was your job. As far as what get tested and who sends it off for testing, that was beyond your scope of duties, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And you said that you were involved in searching some of the spur roads, including specifically off of Bridgeport Road, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Bridgeport Road's way south, just before the Delta County line, is that right?
That's correct.
And the process of searching that area involved volunteers walking around looking for stuff, right?
That's correct.
And then your role in that is if the volunteers find something, you go document it and collect it potentially.
That's one of my roles, yes.
Okay. And they found clothes down off of Bridgeport Road, is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, you went down and you looked at these clothes and you determined that they didn't appear to be related to this case, is that correct?
That's correct.
And as a result, those clothes were never collected, is that right?
That's correct.
And with those clothes, there was an item described in the report as a sex toy, is that correct?
That's correct.
Because that sex toy was associated with the clothes, and the clothes appeared to be for a large person, therefore not related. You didn't collect that either, is that right?
That's correct.
Now, you're aware, you've had training as a law enforcement officer, right?
Yes.
And necessarily in the course of your training, you've had some training in crime scene processing, is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, perhaps not to the extent of a CBI crime scene tech, but you've certainly had training in that area.
Yes, I have.
And you're familiar with sources of, good sources of DNA from your training, is that right?
Yes.
And certainly a sex toy, had it been used, would be a fertile ground for DNA testing. Would you agree?
Potentially, yes.
Okay. I have nothing further. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Waite, redirect.
Sir, you didn't collect those clothes because you made a determination that they really weren't related to the case. What did you decide about those clothes? What about them made you make that decision?
Excuse me. The clothes had markings or tags on them appearing that they had come from a yard sale or a rummage sale. There was children's clothing, if I recall correctly, like very young children's clothing, infant or toddler clothing. The clothing and the items that were there virtually appeared that they had been discarded by someone that was literally illegally dumping on public lands. So as if someone were dumping trash or their garbage, as opposed to anything related to a crime or a crime scene.
It looked more like a big bag of trash to you.
That's correct.
And is that where this sex toy came from as well?
It was in the same vicinity, yes.
Okay, so the same location.
Yes.
anything about those things that tied them back to this case at all?
There was nothing there that indicated that any of those items had anything to do with this case.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Colvin?
Thank you. Now let's be clear on this. The bag contained clothes, right?
Correct.
And the bag was actually laying there with clothes spilled out of it, right?
Correct.
But the sex toy was near that bag of clothes, but it wasn't in the bag, right?
Not that I recall.
Okay. The sex toy didn't have a yard sale tag on it, did it?
No, it did not.
Okay. The clothes had tags on it like they'd been in a yard sale, right?
Correct.
Okay. Nothing further. Thank you.
Nothing else based on
Nothing else, Mr. Waite? All right. Is he released from his subpoena, Mr. Waite?
Yes, please.
Any objection, Mr. Colvin?
No, sir.
You're released from your subpoena, sir, and free to go. Thank you.
Thank
The
you.
people's next witness, please.
And, Your Honor, at this time, the people would call Sergeant Richard Acree, or former Sergeant Richard Acree.
Thank you. Feel free to stretch if anybody wishes. Thank you. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Just be careful of this black cord, and then I'll give you an oath. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you, sir. If you have a seat in the green chair, please. You can proceed whenever you're ready, Mr. Wade. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sergeant Acree, good morning.
Morning.
Would you state your name and spell your last name for us, please?
Richard Acree, A-C-R-E-E.
How are you employed?
I'm a sergeant with the Mesa County Sheriff's Office.
And in that capacity, what are you the sergeant over?
I'm assigned to the Investigations Division. Currently, I supervise the property investigations.
Have you had other duties as well with the Sheriff's Department?
I began as a deputy in patrol, then became promoted to sergeant in patrol, and served here in the valley and also in the rural area deputy program.
How long have you been with the Sheriff's Department?
Since 1999.
Being employed there in June or July of 2007, did you have certain duties during that period of time?
Yes, I did.
And what were those?
I was a supervisor over the rural area deputy program at that time.
Okay. And what did that mean? What did you end up doing?
Our patrol area is everything mainly outside the valley floor.
Okay. I'd like to direct your attention to July 15th, 2007. On that date, did you get involved in the investigation surrounding the disappearance of Paige Bergfeld?
Yes, I did.
And did you accompany Deputy Brownlee out to Highway 50 south of Grand Junction to collect and document some evidence that had been found in that area?
Yes, I did.
How did that occur? How did you come to go out there?
We had gotten several reports of people finding items along the roadway out there. We found a few items, as I remember, and decided to do a more in-depth search of the area. So we had brought in some of sworn officers as well as some volunteers from the search and rescue from the ground team to help search areas. And I was just supervising that search area.
Okay. Were you searching as well?
When I got there along the roadway, I was.
Okay. When you say along the roadway, you were along Highway 50?
Yes, sir. Primarily on the east side of the roadway.
Mm-hmm. And were the items, did you collect some items along the highway there?
I just marked them.
Okay, so you marked items. The deputy that was with you, Deputy Brownlee, would collect items as well?
Yes, sir. He came out after we called for some additional help.
Were you guys photographing things as well?
I believe one of the investigators was doing the photographing.
Okay. And did you and Deputy Brownlee take GPS coordinates of things as you either found them, collected them, noted them?
Yes, sir, we did.
Okay. Show you what's been marked as People's Exhibits 400 through 404. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes, sir, thank you.
You had a chance to review those?
Yes, sir.
Are those photographs of some of the items that you were involved in documenting that day on July 15, 2007?
Yes, sir, they are.
Accurate photos of those?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'd ask to admit People's 400 through 404.
Do you have an objection, Mr. Colvin? No, sir. People's 400 through 404 are all admitted, thank you.
And if we may publish those, please.
Do you have an objection, Mr. Colvin?
No, sir.
That's fine, thank you.
Sergeant Acree, the copies of those are going to come up behind you, and we'll just talk about those. Sergeant Acree, as we look at these, down in the left-hand corner of that, of what you're looking at, there's an exhibit number. So if you could refer to the exhibit number and then tell me what we're looking at, please.
Exhibit 400?
And what does that appear to be, sir?
It's a piece of mail document that, I don't recall exactly what the writing on it was, but I remember it was related to Paige. I think it had her name on it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next, please. And
Exhibit 401, it's a Pampered Chef brochure that was addressed to her
okay.
as well.
It had her name actually on the
On the envelope, yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. And next, please.
Exhibit 402 is a woman's shoe that at the time we believe belonged to Paige Bergfeld.
Okay, and that was found along the side of the road as well. Does it appear to be, what color is it?
It's
Was it-
gold.
Okay, and it has a heel on it?
Yes, sir. About a
Okay.
2.5 inch heel, something like that.
And that photograph was taken as it sat there, as
Yes,
it was
sir.
found? Okay. Next, please.
And that was a strap. We think that belonged to like a purse or something.
Okay. And then 40,
That's 404, yes, sir.
okay. So that's
403.
403, okay.
Sorry.
Next, 404.
404 is a wallet. I believe that's what that was.
Okay, just appeared to be a wallet of some sort that was located there. Is that, are we looking at the median of the highway at that point? Or are we-
Yes, that's the median.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir. Your Honor, if I could approach the witness again,
Yes, you may, thank you.
and these have previously been shown to defense counsel.
All right, thank you.
Sir, I've handed you two items there, one marked People's Exhibit 405 and one marked 406. Can we talk about 405 first, please? Can
Okay.
you tell me what that is?
That is a Pampered Chef brochure that we located that was belonged to Paige.
Okay. And is that the same brochure we just saw in the photograph, or is that, do you know, is that a different?
Yes, I
brochure?
believe it is.
Same brochure, okay. And is that an item that you had collected?
I had marked it And Deputy Brownlee collected it.
Okay. It appears to be the same one that you guys found,
Yes, sir.
though? Thank you. And the next one, please?
And this one is the shoe that we located on the side of the road on the east side.
And that's item number, or exhibit number 406? Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. And that was the same gold shoe that we saw in the photograph?
Yes, sir.
And you and Deputy Brownlee collected that as well?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'd ask to admit Peoples 405 and 406.
Mr. Colvin?
No objection.
Thank you. Peoples 405 and 406 are both admitted.
I don't have anything else, Judge.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Colvin?
Thank you, Judge. So, the shoe and the purse strap are found on the shoulder of the road on the north side heading towards Grand Junction, is that correct?
It would be on the east side of the road.
I mean the east side. But it's heading...
If you're northbound.
northbound
Right.
towards Grand Junction, right?
Yes, correct.
And the wallet is found on the median, but on the side of the median next to northbound Highway 50 towards Grand
That's
Junction.
correct, sir.
Okay. And I know this is going to sound like a dumb question, but bear with me.
Okay.
The purse strap, that wasn't paper, right? Made of paper?
Oh, no, sir.
Okay. The shoe, that wasn't made of paper, was it?
No, sir.
That wallet, it wasn't made of paper, was it?
No.
Okay. Thank you. We have nothing further.
Nothing based on that?
Nothing, Mr. Waite. All right, is this witness under subpoena?
He is, if he could be released, however.
Do you have an objection, Mr. Colvin?
No, sir.
All right, thanks. You're released from your subpoena, sir, and free to go.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
The people's next witness, please.
Your Honor, the people would call Jacob Wirtz to the stand.
Thank you. Feel free to stretch. Sorry I didn't say anything. Afternoon, sir. Afternoon. Be careful of the black cord there. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you, sir. If you have a seat in your own chair, please. Thank you. You can proceed whenever you're ready, Mr. Wade. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You will.
Mr. Wirtz, good morning.
Good morning.
Would you state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Jacob Wirtz, W-E-R-T-Z.
How are you employed?
I currently work for the Mesa County Traffic Department.
Did you used to work for the Mesa County Sheriff's Department?
I did.
And when you worked for the Sheriff's Department, well, what years did you work for the Mesa County Sheriff's Department?
From 2005 until 2013.
And what did you do for the Sheriff's Department while you worked there?
I worked court security, and then I moved to patrol and worked there from 2007 to 2013.
Were you working there in July of 2007 then?
I was.
And in July of 2007, what were your general duties at that point?
I was assigned to patrol, respond to calls of service, and then extra assignments as needed.
Okay. Did you get one of those extra assignments on July 15th of 2007?
I did.
Did you get involved in the investigation of the disappearance of Paige Bergfeld at that point?
I did.
What were you asked to do?
On that day, I was assigned to assist with search for evidential items along Highway 50 through Whitewater.
And did you go down to Highway 50 to do that?
I did.
What part of Highway 50 did you initially go to?
I don't remember the exact mile marker, but the whole day spanned from mile marker 42, I believe, until mile marker 51.
Okay. So you covered a significant section of the highway.
Yes.
And as you were covering that section of the highway, were items found along that entire section?
Yes.
Now, when you started on Highway 50, were there other people that were out there that had been searching for things as well?
Yes, there were volunteers from the Jennifer and Abby Blagg Foundation.
Okay. And they were out looking as well for various things along the highway?
They were.
And did it work that as you were out there and they were finding things, they would mark them and then you would go document them and ultimately collect them?
That's how it worked.
Okay. How had they marked those things? How were they marked?
I believe they were with a small plastic flag on a metal stake.
Okay. And so did you, and as you found those things, did you document them?
I did.
And how did you do that?
Photographs, made notes so I could put it in my report later, and then a good portion of the items were booked into evidence.
Okay. Did you also GPS each item as you found them?
I did.
Okay, and when we say GPS, I think most people understand that. What is GPSing?
Global positioning satellites. It's
Okay.
a small handheld device that locates your precise location.
Okay. So you would use that device to document the location that you found each thing?
Yes.
And then did you put those readings into a report ultimately?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you indicated that you also photographed things as you went,
Yes.
and I'm going to approach you and show you what's been marked as People's Exhibits 409 through 445. Judge, may I approach?
Yes, sir, thank you.
And these have previously been shown to the defense.
Thank you.
What I would ask you to do, sir, is go through and review each of those, and then we can talk about it. Talk about them. Finished with that review, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Are those in fact photos that you took of items as you searched for and collected them there on Highway 50?
They are.
Accurate depictions of those?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd ask to admit People's 409 through 445.
Do you have an objection, Mr. Colvin?
No objection, sir.
Thank you. People's 409 through and including 445 are all admitted. Thank you.
Now, before we publish those, I want to ask you a couple of questions. What types of things were you finding along the highway?
There were numerous checks, checkbooks belonging to a company that was owned by the victim. There were Pampered Chef catalogs with her name on them. I believe there was a bracelet, some clothing, cell phone.
Just kind of collect, did you take pictures of all of those items?
Yes.
Did you collect all of them?
No.
Okay, so some of the things that we've noted in the pictures, you didn't collect?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, if we could, Your Honor, if we could publish just a few of those. I don't intend to publish them all.
Any objection?
No, sir.
That's fine, you can proceed, thank you.
Ms. Watson, if we could publish 409, please. And Your Honor, if I could approach the witness to retrieve those pictures.
That's fine, thank you.
Is that Exhibit 409, sir? Down in the lower left-hand corner, you can see the exhibit number.
Yes, it is.
And what is that, sir?
That is a Pampered Chef catalog with the name Paige Birchfeld on it.
Okay. And was that an example of some of the things that you collected along the highway that day?
Yes.
Okay. If we could also publish then 417. And that's Exhibit 417. What are we looking at there, sir?
That's a Blockbuster video rental card with the name Paige Biegler.
Okay. Are you familiar with this investigation?
Not really.
Okay, all right. I won't ask you then. And that's, again, an example of something that you guys found along the highway?
It is.
Okay. Now, when I say found along the highway, where were you finding all these items in relation to the highway itself?
We found some in the median, we found some on the north side of the highway, some on the south side.
Okay, so kind of spread out all the way across the highway on both sides and in the middle?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. And then if we could look at 420, please. And what is 420?
That's a blank check with the name on the account, Brain Dance.
Brain Dance? Okay. And a bank, Vector Bank, is that correct?
Yes, Vector Bank.
Okay. Did you find a number of those kinds of checks as well along that highway then?
Several.
Okay. All right, and lastly, if we could just look at 445. What was that, sir?
It was a large magnet.
Okay, it said bachelorette, looks like party, clear the road, or something to that effect?
Yes.
Is that an example of one of the things that you did not collect?
I don't recall.
Okay, you don't remember if you guys collected that or not?
I don't.
Something, though, that you certainly documented, photographed?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I don't think we need to publish any more of those. Thank you. And now, Judge, if I could approach the witness again. I'm going to show these to defense, however, first.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Now, sir, I've handed you a box full of items. In that box are people's exhibits 446 through 464. What I would ask you to do is look through all of those first, and I'll ask you a few questions about those at that point, and then we can perhaps go through them one at a time. Had a chance to review those, sir?
Yes,
Are those in fact items that you collected on July 15th along the side of the road along Highway 50?
they are.
And you talked about those as being spread out for a number of miles along the highway?
Yes,
But those are in fact the items you collected?
yes.
Okay. I'd like to go through them fairly quickly. So if we could just have you refer to an exhibit number and then tell us what it is, please.
Exhibit 446 is a checkbook
These have not been
register.
Admitted, right?
No, that's true. Oh, that's true, I guess, Judge. Those are the actual things that you collected?
They are.
Your Honor, I'd ask to admit at this point People's 446 through 464.
No objection.
Thank you. People's Exhibits 446 through and including 464 are all admitted. You can proceed, thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.
And then just briefly, let's go through each again and tell us the exhibit number and what it is.
Okay. Exhibit 446 is a checkbook register.
Okay?
Exhibit 447 is a Colorado Department of Healthcare Policy and Financing card in the name of Cole Dixon.
Cole Dixon, okay.
448, three health insurance cards, one in the name of Paige Dixon, one in Jess Dixon, and one for Taft Dixon.
Okay.
449 is a black women's shirt. 450 is a checkbook cover.
Okay, thank you.
451 is a checkbook register. 452 is also a checkbook register.
Can you tell just from the register what account it goes to, or is that not on there?
Not that I can tell.
Okay, thank you, go ahead.
453 is a Pampered Chef catalog with the name Paige Bergfeld on it. .454 is also a Pampered Chef catalog.
Okay.
455 is a Pampered Chef catalog. 456 is a Pampered Chef catalog.
All those catalogs having Paige Brookville's name on them?
The majority of them.
Okay.
457, also a Pampered Chef catalog with Paige's name. .458, also a Pampered Chef catalog with Paige's name. .459 is a pornographic DVD. .460 is a Pampered Chef catalog with the name Paige Bergfeld. .461, also a Pampered Chef catalog with the name Paige Bergfeld.
Okay.
.462 is a Pampered Chef catalog with Paige's name. And .463 is a Pampered Chef catalog with the name Paige Bergfeld. And .464 is a silver-colored bracelet.
Thank you, sir. Now, you indicated before that all of those items were things that were located up and down Highway 50 on both sides of the road
Yes,
and in the median. Now, when you documented those, you said you took a GPS reading. Do you know, was that what those readings were used for later on? Do you know that they were put into a map?
I did not.
Okay, all right, thank you. I don't have anything else from Mr. Wirtz at this time.
Cross-examination, Mr. Colvin.
Morning.
Morning.
Do you know if the GPS reading is accurate enough to say which side of the road something was found on?
I don't.
Okay. And you collected a bunch of stuff. We just saw a bunch of stuff you collected. But you didn't collect everything that was flagged by the searchers. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the things you didn't collect were things that didn't have any apparent evidentiary value, in your opinion?
And the opinion of other supervisors that were on scene.
Okay. Other supervisors would make that determination and you would do what they said?
Yes.
Okay. You hesitated when you were asked about whether or not the Bachelorette sign was, well, let's talk about the Bachelorette sign. So that's a magnetic little sign you put on the back of your car, right?
I suppose you can put it on any metal surface.
Okay. But the sign says Bachelorette Party, clear the road.
Correct.
Logical, you would put it on a car.
Yes.
If you were in fact part of a Bachelorette party.
Yes.
That sign didn't have any apparent evidentiary value, is that correct?
I don't recall.
Okay. Were you aware that sign was actually collected and tested?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm sure it's documented in my report.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Mr. Wade, other questions for the witness?
Just based on that, Mr. Wertz, when we talked about the location of various of these things, we talked about things that were found in the median, things that were found on both sides of the highway. Do you recall where the two checks where there were two checks belonging to Brain Dance and two checkbook registers? Do you recall where those were found?
I don't.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at your report?
It would.
Your Honor, if I could approach.
Yes, sir.
I'm referring to page 7.
Thank you.
Sir, if I could direct you to look at the second page about halfway down the page, please. Does that refresh your recollection?
It does.
And where were those items that I just described located?
They were in the median near mile marker 44.
Okay. Were there also checkbook and checkbook registers and checks that were found on the south side, on the west side of the highway? Just below that, if you would, please.
Yes, on the south side of the highway.
South side of the highway. When we talk about the south side, we're talking about essentially as you're going to Delta, the south side would be the right-hand side of the highway there?
Correct.
Okay. I don't have anything else, Judge.
Mr. Colvin.
That report is the report that would reflect whether or not you collected that Bachelorette sign, is that right?
Yes.
Would you look at the last full paragraph on page 791 and see if it refreshes your recollection as to whether or not you collected it?
It does.
And you in fact collected it?
I did.
So the evidentiary significance of a magnetic Bachelorette party sign, it's not readily apparent why that's of evidentiary significance.
Correct.
Would you agree? So you guys used a pretty broad, expansive definition of what you collected?
Yes.
Okay. And the fact of the matter is, Once you collected it, you had nothing to do with determining what got tested. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you know, when I say tested, I'm referring to scientific testing by a forensic laboratory. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Oh, no worries. Mr. Waite, other questions?
Nothing based on that, Your Honor. And he is under subpoena if he could be released.
Any objection?
No, sir.
Thank you. You're released from your subpoena and free to go, sir. Thank you so much. Mr. Rubenstein?
May we approach him?
Yes, sir. Mr. Rubenstein?
Thank you, Your Honor. The people call investigator Lisa Norcross to the stand.
Thank you. Just have the black cord. Thanks. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All right, thank you. Can I have a seat in the green chair, please? Thank you.
Good morning, investigator.
Good morning.
We clearly will not get through all of your testimony before lunch, but we figured we'd get started.
Okay.
Can you please tell the jury your full name and spell your last name?
Sure, it's Lisa Norcross. The first name is Lissah. The last name is Norcross.
And you're speaking unusually quiet for you. Do you have a cold or
I have a
something?
major head cold. I apologize ahead of time to everybody.
Okay. How are you currently employed?
I'm an investigator with the Mesa County Sheriff's Office here in Grand Junction, Colorado.
How long have you been in law enforcement?
28 years.
And has all of that been with the Mesa County Sheriff's Office?
No, I worked for about 3.5 years over at the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, which is over next to Denver, our Vada, Lakewood area.
What are your current duties?
I'm assigned to the Complex Crimes Unit, which is basically crimes against people. It has to do with homicides, shootings, sexual assaults on adults and children. I also sit on the Critical Incident Team, which is a team of investigators countywide that handles incidents involving officers involved in shootings in some way, shape, or form.
How long have you had that particular assignment?
Since 2005. So what is that, 11 years?
So that included the time of 2007. That was continuous?
Yes.
In your line of work, have cell phone records become an important investigative tool?
Yes.
Can you explain to the jury why that is?
When I moved so before working in persons crimes, I worked for about 8 years in property crimes. So around that time is when cell phones became a big deal. I'm old enough to remember when we didn't have them, but we have them now, and everyone seems to have one now. So part of what my job entailed early on in this particular assignment, we had a case where some cell phones were being used, and so no one had ever really looked at trying to gather the records or how you obtained records. Now it's kind of a matter of routine depending on the case.
What year did it really crop up for you as being a big part of your job?
It became a big part of my job when I moved over because there was a case, I believe it was in 2005, where the first time I did it, and basically my supervisor said, you need to figure out how to do this because we need them. And I didn't know, so I learned. I learned by kind of on-the-job training. And I learned how to, the process of, we write affidavits, which is by paragraph of explaining why we believe a cell phone, why companies would have information. I learned what kind of information you can and cannot obtain. I've learned things about how you track phones, and that's kind of all been on the job and talking with all the different companies. Companies have a little bit different requirements per company, depending on which company you're dealing with. But generally, the process is the same for each cell phone company. Cell phones are very different than landlines, and in cell phones, it's different if you're looking for call records, like making a phone call versus text messages. That's different because it's different how that information is obtained by the companies and how it's stored.
So in 2005, it became clear that this was an emerging investigative area. Did your entire agency immediately start off learning and taking classes and getting up to speed on it, or did that sort of focus with one or two people?
No, our entire agency did not do that initially. Many more people know how to do that now. Back in 2005 through the time of this, basically there were about one or two of us that knew how to do it.
You were one of those people?
Yes.
The information you can gather from cell records, does that include times of calls?
Yes.
Who is in communication with whom, at least which devices are in communication with each other?
Yes.
And locations, what about locations of those devices?
Yes, because phones basically work off of hitting off of towers, and so that information has changed a little bit over time as to what information you can get from towers. It's a little bit more specific now than it was back then, but definitely you can find out which tower an actual phone is using. It's like a radio signal. It's going to go to a tower. If you're moving, it's going to change towers if you're driving along the interstate or something like that. That's how we can find out where phones, at least a general area of where phones are. Now we are more specific on that than we were back then.
Tell the jury about your experience as being a crisis leader and team leader as it related to your gathering cell records.
We didn't do a lot of, so I used to be what's called a crisis negotiator or hostage negotiator. I did that for many years, and I was a team leader in that. In doing that, I learned through working with the phone company how you could tap into phone lines, shall we say, to turn off phones so that people can't communicate, or how to track them. At that time, cell phones were starting to come in, so we learned how to track where phones are. Again, that's more specific now than it was back then, but at least you could tell right now where the tower was. That's different information. There's historical information as to what calls are made. Cell phone companies used to charge you by the call or by the minutes usage. Now many companies give unlimited usage, but they still keep track of all those calls. Your landline at your home does not do that. Your landline at home, unless you're making international calls or out-of-state long-distance calls, it doesn't generally keep track of the number you're calling unless we're looking for something ahead of time and they put a certain kind of tracker on it. I'm hoping that makes sense.
So as part of your learning this process, did you speak with the custodian of records from various phone companies?
I've spoken with the custodian records. I've also spoken with most of the phone companies have a law enforcement unit that helps us gather information, helps us know what they can and cannot give for us.
Which companies have you spoken with, either the custodian of records or the law enforcement units for?
All the main companies, being the bigger companies of Sprint, Verizon, AT&T, which Singular, they're merged now, T-Mobile. There's a track phone company, which is kind of a third-party phone company. I've talked with Cricket. I've talked with Quest. I'm probably forgetting some.
Nextel?
Yes, which now is Sprint.
Flat Wireless?
Yes, that's a local company.
Level 3 Communications?
Yes.
Virgin Mobile?
Yes.
Did you also meet with tower maintenance employees ever to talk about coverage areas?
I have. That's been more rare. I've only done it like once or twice that I can think of. They have people that do tower maintenance. Back in 2007, so companies are a little, they have proprietary interests into where their cell towers are and where that coverage is. So they don't, they'll tell us where the tower is, but tower maintenance people are a different aspect of that. So I've met with them a few times to have them check if somebody's here, what tower are they going to hit off of? But that's not something I've done frequently.
Is the purpose of doing this to learn what information can be gathered?
You mean to meet with the tower person?
To speak with the custodian of records, speak with tower people, speak with
Yes, in general, yes.
investigative teams, to figure out what information can be gathered as well as how to interpret the information you get?
Yes.
Does it vary on things like time zones?
Oh, yes.
As far as what time zone will appear in the records versus which caller it is?
Yes, so if I'm sitting here in Grand Junction, my phone's going to hit off this tower here, which is on our time here in Grand Junction.
And investigator, before you go too far
Oh.
down the explaining that, I just want to sort of get your background as far as what information you might be gathering and what your purpose of talking to those people is.
Well, when I talk with them, I need to know some of the records, they used to come in the time zone where the records were kept sometimes, but I needed to clarify because it depends on where a phone is as to what the time, when I'm getting the date and time of a call, it depends on where the phone is. And so I need to know whether those records are, and if you're traveling, it matters. So often I need to talk to people to determine that from the company as to what times zones that in.
Approximately how many requests for historical records have you completed?
I know at least 50 because I counted it. That's for serious cases. That's not involving a lot of the sex assault cases that I handle. In this day and age, young people are on social media a lot, and a lot of sexual assault cases involve some kind of social media, which is usually nowadays on the phone. Used to be on computers. Now people do it on their phones.
Is that a similar process to complete?
Similar process, but I did not count those because those are more numerous.
Slightly different records, but a similar process you go about in requesting them?
Yes, but sometimes it's similar records, yeah.
Approximately how many times, or, well, have you obtained orders for real-time requests of phone data?
I don't remember, but that's less. I know I've done it probably a handful or two of times for that. That's talking about where I'm looking for a phone right now. I can think of a couple times I've done that. I know of 3 or 4 times, but that's like I need a phone right now. That's a different process than getting historical records of who somebody has called in the past.
Have you learned how to interpret dates and times of calls?
Yes,
Cell site locations?
yes,
Tower and switches?
yes,
Information retention periods?
yes.
And does that vary from company to company?
And yes, and from information to information, what you're looking for.
Has any of your training come from coursework or classwork, or has it all been on the job?
Most of it has been on the job. I have gone to a class or two that has talked about it, and that was a long time ago. And then from then, I've had some other coworkers who now do the same thing, and they've gone to different classes, and I check information with them to make sure that I'm current.
Have you done any on-the-job training as far as talking to other experts in the field, such as your coworkers you mentioned, but other than your particular coworkers here, do you talk to other experts in other agencies?
Yes,
And does that include both federal, state, and local agencies? Excuse me.
Federal and
all three
state.
Federal and state agencies. Your Honor, at this time I'd move to qualify Investigator Norcross as an expert in the interpretation of telephone and cellular telephone records, including cell site locations.
Cell tower locations?
Interpretation of telephone and cellular telephone records, including cell site locations.
Mr. Colvin?
No objection.
All right, thank you. I do find the witness is so qualified as an expert in those areas, she will be allowed to express her opinions. Mr. Rubenstein?
Investigator, as part of your job in gathering cell phone information or telephone information for an investigation, would it be common for you to listen to voice messages to figure out which people are calling, which phone numbers are calling, what the subject of the conversation is, things like that?
Yes, if they're retained. That's one of those pieces of information that's not retained always.
Okay. Did you participate in the investigation of the disappearance of Paige Bergfeld?
Yes?
And in 2007, were you the person that was assigned, at least primarily, to be the one working on the cellular phone data?
Yes.
As part of that, did you listen to and record the voicemail messages of 2 different phone lines of Paige Bergfeld?
Yes.
If I may approach, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
I've handed you what's marked People's Exhibit 300. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
Does it have your initials on it?
Yes.
And is the reason it has your initials on it is because you listened to it, and after listening to it, you initialed it?
I initial it and I put my officer number and the date that I listened to this copy.
So you can tell that that's the one you listened to?
Yes.
Okay, and what is that, what is on that disc?
I checked voicemails, in this case, for 2 different phone numbers, and these are recordings of the voicemails that were still retained by the company at the time that I received the order to get these.
Okay, and are those voice messages of messages that were left roughly beginning at the time that Miss Bergfeld's phones went dead?
Yes.
Okay, Your Honor, at this time I'd move to admit People's Exhibit 300.
Do you have an objection, Mr. Colvin?
I have no new objection other than what I raised previously.
All right, thank you. People's Exhibit number 300 is admitted.
And Judge, I'm going to ask to publish that, but given the noon hour, and I would also ask that Investigator Norcross not need to remain on the witness stand while those are being played. It should be about 50 minutes, so if we can maybe break for the lunch hour, and then we'll play it without her sitting up at the stand afterwards.
Okay,
Thank you,
sounds
sir.
great, thank you. So you want her back at 1:45 maybe? Is that-
She's welcome, yeah, she's welcome back at 1 o'clock, but yeah,
Okay.
we'll need her to testify around 1:45.
All right, so if you'll just be back between 1 and 1:45 is great, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Investigator. And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we'll go ahead and take our lunch recess until 1 o'clock, please. And please remember the instructions for the recesses, we'll see you back then. Thank you, please rise for our jury.
Thank you.
Our jury has left the court. Anything else for the record, Mr. Rubenstein?
No, sir.
Mr. Colvin?
No, sir.
Thank you. We're in recess until 1 o'clock, please. Thanks.